All right, we got some eggs. They don't even need to be room temperature for this one. And I am sure the bananas, which do need to be more room temperature, are actually feeling that way now. So no banana bread was harmed in the delaying of this pleasure. Oh my god, I cracked myself up. Okay. I was gonna say I have so many things that I thought about saying while I was gone, and now I can't even think. So that's always fun. I saw this woman today at the grocery store, and she was like going to be the next in line in a very short checkout line. Like the cashier had already scanned all the items, and this woman was like hovering in the way of a worker walking purposefully with a box, and they had like a little dance, and he was like, oh, is there anything I can help you with? And she's like, well, I was just wondering if there's another cashier, but like kind of twirling her curls for some special treatment. And he was like, oh, I'll get you right here. And of course he did, and it was great. But I was like, really? You couldn't just wait? But there are plenty of things I have not been able to just wait on, so I guess I really can't talk. But yeah, this is all looking a lot more banana bread ready. Okay, so the recipe calls for a half cup of honey. Yeah, and usually when I was first making this recipe, I was using honey, and I was using local honey. I found later that using xylitol helps me during, like, either psychologically or microbiologically helps me kind of reorient my relationship with drinking. But initially, it was literally just local honey. It's really good for you, and you should be eating it and feeding it to your kids. But you can't, like, it's so hard, and everybody knows that, but, like, it's also hard to find good beekeepers, Animal cruelty is just so rampant. It's awful. It's truly horrific, and I think we all know this, and I think we all grieve together about it. Nobody saw that in the arms of an angel, video with dry eyes. And we get, you watch, talking about internet trends, you watch the whole internet get so worked up over animals. Oh my god, wow. That has been just the best thing to see, is just the way most humans are when given a little bit of space and an environment to be kind and love animals. They make like 20 bazillion subreddits dedicated to animals. It's so cute. It's the best thing. This is why I can't take doom and gloom stuff seriously. I'm just like, have you seen what humans do when left to their own devices? Like, especially ones who are oriented towards healing. They don't even have to be healed. They just need to be facing the healing process with, like, desire to be. They start doing amazing things right away when they just get oriented. That word has been such a important thing to me in my life, because obviously, like, school, you go through orientation. But, like, what does that mean, right? And looking at different schools or different work environments, different experiences, seeing the way or what orientation means to people. Orientation at, my first community college versus my first university versus my first call center job versus my first sales job, they are wildly different things. My very, very brief stint at Wendy's had one of the most interesting orientations. Shout out Wendy's. I did not make it past the first like week there. It was way too hard. I was rejected by Burger King. The woman sensed very rightly that I would wash out quite early, and she was not wrong. I washed out pretty hard at Wendy's. But I didn't make it very long at Walmart either. I'm gonna be real. All that anti-union propaganda at the beginning just made it really difficult for me to get behind Walmart in any sense. And then working the deli at a super center and having to walk like definitely 12 miles a day every day. I had plantar fasciitis. I was rolling bottles of frozen water under my feet at the end of every shift. Like, oh, I was in so much pain. It was horrific. And I just wasn't a good teammate, and I wanted to be. Like, the women I worked with at that deli were really nice, and they were super supportive and just, like, empowering and helpful, and they trained me really well, and it wasn't that hard of a job, and it was, like, an interesting and exciting job, but I just, like, I wasn't fit. I wasn't, like, physically capable. It sucked, and it hurt, and my ego took such a beating from that. A teaspoon of vanilla. But I've been working on my feet in food service or in general on and off most of my life, so that was really important to me, that like sense of identity. And being kind of disabled from like anything that wasn't a desk job or like a sitting job was hard. It was hard for me. After that I went into disabled adult care, and that was a lot of different types of learning about people and about care and caregiving and like the state of the practice, such as it is. And it's hard. It's a really, really hard job. And the people who do it are not paid or given enough respect. They're definitely not paid enough. And there's, you know, and I mean, who's surprised, right? There's a dearth of appreciation for human services in systems that aren't built to benefit human beings. I mean, these systems are literally built from a time when we, quote, a certain group of us, but like, no, I should say we. I think it was all of us. I don't really know. Check my facts. But these systems are really built around agriculture and around staying in one place, right? Cities. Hammurabi's Code. What other fun keywords from that time? Cyrillic. The Rosetta Stone. So, you know, these systems are built from this period, and yeah, they're really just designed to aggregate wealth, right? They're designed to aggregate grain. They're designed to aggregate resources, and it all just comes back to that. And so, to be living within the geopolitical, social, the zeitgeist that we are today, and to not acknowledge that it's still built on that model almost everywhere, or truly everywhere, right? The globalization of it all, the money of it all, the economy of it all. But it's still just like the system runs blindly to aggregate wealth. That's the whole job of the system, and it does a good job. But it doesn't run with evil intent. It's not a insidious bad guy. it's working as designed to aggregate wealth for the subset of the population that put as much, like, the amount of swift globalization and technology that could be brought to bear at that time, and they were really good at it, and so it's still running that way. Like, and from like a taking responsibility for those leftover infrastructures as a collective, as a species. I know that's a huge fucking ask, because I am asking essentially the only others with the mathematical capacity to compete to work with the fucking white devil who has been plaguing the seas and the trees and everywhere in between for so long that most people can't remember a time or place where that wasn't the case. That's a big ask, right? That's huge. I'm sure it won't happen in my lifetime, but I do think that I'm not the only one asking. And I think I'm also not the only one who understands the sense of urgency implicit in that. And I think that the fact that our children, like the younger people in this room with their voices raised on these topics, deserves so much more respect and so much more like attentiveness than they are getting. And it's because, like, I'm gonna say it, I think it's because of this like deep shame that everybody carries, understanding the like depth of exploitation and threat that all of our children face, and the level in which we feel we are doing nothing, although you're hogtied in a system that's like sucking you dry for all it's worth. So like, please don't beat yourself up for doing nothing. I'm sure you're doing everything you can. But for those of us who like really can't help but understand this threat and really can't help but understand the vastness of it and the scope and the pervasiveness throughout the culture and the world, to the kids, like, it's hard not to feel as though humanity is evil and doomed, and maybe we should die off and not continue to threaten our planet. Like, maybe that would just be better, right? And that sort of collective existential doom sensation, of course it permeates, I want to say downwards to the individual level, but like, of course it's in the air. We're all feeling that. We're all experiencing that. We are all talking about it. I take it back. I know I said the other day that nobody's talking about this, like, serious pedophile stuff, but I just saw an article about Eric Comby and Fitch guy, so that's cool. I don't know. It kind of makes me think of that Australian guy. He, like, bred his wife and then his daughters and kept them locked in the basement. Yeah, I remember when that news hit, the just like the consciousness, and the group that I was with at the time, or like the area I got that news from, was 4chan or some kind of image board, you know, around the time of the hate machine or whatever. But I remember seeing that, and I remember the reactions. You know, people's anonymous in the moment reactions to things are very genuine and honest, but they're not meant to exceed that very brief anonymous moment, in my opinion. So I'm sure there were plenty of people saying flippant things during that time that they are haunted by and regret and think about every day of their lives, and I'm sorry for you. That sucks. I didn't say anything flippant or stupid because, you know, it grieved me, but it didn't surprise me, and I was just sort of glad that we were all talking about it in a way that was, like, so global. I felt like that was really powerful, so I thought it was great when that story came out. I was like, sick. We can have conversations about these things that, you know, have almost certainly been happening for quite a long time based on my incomplete data scrapping together pieces of her story. But, you know, at least we can talk about it now. Like, this is a step forward. Always thinking positively here. And really, I did. I was like, oh, sick, we can discuss this. Because I'd seen already at that time, you know, the interest, this interest in incest, and in, I'm not, no. The keeping it in the family stuff that was coming up in porn a lot, and how, and I was just thinking, and I know that, you know, you might at me for, you know, did you really think all this stuff back then at like 14 years old? Really, Cody? But, oh yeah, the cinnamon version is gonna go off. But like, yeah, it kind of was, because like I told you, I'd been watching the rise of the internet and kind of, you know, in real time, learning social norms about what was and was not okay to talk about, or what was considered taboo. And at the time, a lot of it was wrong. Like, I remember asking my mom if one of my aunts was gay, and she was like, would it matter if she was? And I was like, well, no. But she had to ask me that explicitly, because the implicit norm at the time was that there was something wrong with you, to be queer. And that had been such a norm for such a long time. Like, the oppression of gay and trans bodies had been going on for so long. And there were so many people who died to end that, who didn't have to die. And the way, again, with the epidemics, right? Ebola, AIDS, and COVID. We've got black, and Chinese right there. Ooh, get fucking wrecked. Aversively racist community of all human beings who live in America to some extent and that consume their media. I don't know. I can only talk for the geographic region I am talking about, which is the country whose laws I am subject to. Yes, quite. I am making a case. An Aristotelian treatise on government type of case. It's true. We are high-browing this, people. We are taking the high road instead of revenge. But yeah, I've just found it really interesting, like, what is and is not being discussed. Pretty much all seems to boil down to whether or not people are afraid of getting disappeared as a traitor to Guantanamo, which, of course, has been the intent of the informational campaigns here, because even Obama didn't shut down Guantanamo like he was supposed to, so maybe there's a good reason for it. Oh, that was left so open-ended. Oh my god. I mean, not for me personally, I think it just should be shut down. Like, my values are very clear on that, but in the general conversation, those who have power over this narrative and conversational discourse left that part open-ended before giving us any relief on the next onslaught of things. And I'm not, like, again, all of these things are happening all at once to everybody. This is real life. So at the end of the day, we can't just be like blaming an authority figure and waiting for it to solve our problems. That's not a solution. I'm not going to say final solution. That's not a long-term solution to the problem. Of fascism, misinformation campaigns, poor media literacy in communities, racism, all of these things. Ugh. God, do you ever find yourself just mindlessly washing a jar? We could save this. Save it for what? What are you going to put in there? No, I'm just kidding. I've been finding a need for more jars lately, so we will save it. Whether or not it's going in the bucket or for recycling is, like, is it for us or is it recycling? Recycling feels so good. I'm so glad I can do it again. I don't know what was wrong. Well, I kind of do, but it was one of my favorite things about moving to California was the level of seriousness recycling received just by the general, more literate population on recycling. You know, coming to California had all these upgrades purely because the average person was miles more educated on a variety of topics dear to my heart than the average person in, well, I don't know. That was my perception, you know, and I was young, so we're talking about over the course of my lifetime only. That's a pretty small, single subject design sort of situation. And let's talk about how insidious it is that ABA is going the fuck off, even though all they are based on is single study designs. Like, that's really upsetting in the field of psychology. Yeah, single subject designs do not really say anything. I'm giving you an allegorical example of myself as a human being in the hopes that something similar to pluralistic ignorance is at play, in the sense that you will all find in me something much more relatable than you would ever suspect, regardless of who you are, and that our shared humanity can be united upon in order to save ourselves from ourselves. And I'm hoping that I'm really making a good case for that. And I think I'm doing a pretty good job so far. I'm convincing me. But I'm definitely not making a case for immersive ethnographic single study science, I guess. From an academic perspective, I want to make it very clear I'm a huge fan of large populations for data, and triangulating and concept construction, and, you know, all of these other really great research methods things. And I just don't want to be confused as somebody who enjoys or thinks that single subject studies are sufficient in the way that much of ABA is designed and based around. Yeah, and it's really, at the end of the day, it's a very fundamental core difference in values, in the sense that ABA is functioning within a framework that assumes behavior needs to be in some ways adjusted to conform, I guess, to the social status quo of the day, whatever that happens to be. And they use single subject study designs to like get the little model and then do the changes over the model. It's not like the system doesn't work or that it isn't doing what it's functionally intended to do. I just don't think that system would even be necessary under a under my dreams of a non-hierarchical network living within their ecological means society of free peoples that could potentially network or redistribute themselves and resources and network globally as quickly as they would want to or be capable of working with each other in order to do. So, you know, it just doesn't fit that dream of mine that I have for all people to be truly considered equal under law, despite telling us that we are created equal under God. So that'd be cool. Yeah, and that's, I mean, anarchism doesn't say that law doesn't need to exist. It's just saying that we could truly participate it collectively in a non-hierarchical fashion because our intelligence and our collective literacy is headed in that direction. So the only thing holding us back, like I've mentioned before, are multi-billion-dollar campaigns designed to ensure that we do not succeed in this goal. But anyway, yeah, it's a whole thing. Starting to feel like I live in a video game, so I'll shut this down for now. But this is the almond flour recipe. I would recommend it. It's pretty nice. And yeah. Go, well, wait, let's quote, the red, no, not the red tent. We'll quote, The Handmaid's Tale. Nolite te bastardes carborundarum. Yeah, don't let the bastards beat you down.